2. My stepmother demanded I pay rent for living in my own house, while her kids lived there for free. When I refused, she tried to get my dad to kick me out. But when I revealed the truth about who actually owns the house, everything changed. Sandra's smile widened. Well, then you'll need to find somewhere else to live, won't you? We can't have freeloaders in this house. I sat at the dinner table, my food now completely cold, as Sandra's words hung in the air. The unfairness of it all, the years of being treated like a servant, while her children lounged around, and now this. Something inside me finally snapped. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. James, who graduated college 2 years ago and spends his days playing video games, doesn't have to pay rent. Melissa, who's in her 3rd year of college and has never done a single chore in this house, also doesn't have to pay rent. But I do. I've made the decision that my children don't need to pay rent while they're getting established, Sandra replied, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. A strange sort of calm came over me then. Maybe it was all the years of bottled-up frustration, or maybe it was just time for the truth to come out. I felt myself smile, not my usual attempt to keep the peace smile, but something different, something that made Sandra's own smile falter slightly. Well, that's interesting, I said, leaning back in my chair. I won't be paying rent because this is my house. The silence that followed was deafening. Then James started laughing, followed by Melissa's high-pitched giggle. Sandra joined in too, but her laugh had an edge to it. What are you talking about? She asked between chuckles. This house belongs to me, I repeated, not breaking eye contact. My grandparents put it in my name before they died. The laughter died as they took in my expression. Sandra's face went through a series of emotions, amusement, confusion, disbelief, and finally something close to panic. That's ridiculous, she spluttered, reaching for her phone. I'm calling your father right now. Her manicured nails tapped aggressively at the screen, as she put the phone on speaker. The dial tone seemed to echo through the kitchen. Hello? Dad's voice crackled through the speaker. David, Sandra's voice was tight, controlled. Ruby is telling some interesting stories about the house. She claims it belongs to her. That's not true, right? The silence on the other end stretched for what felt like forever. When Dad finally spoke, his voice was hesitant. Well, Dad cleared his throat. Actually, my in-laws put it in Ruby's name before they passed. I didn't think. You didn't think to mention this. Sandra was practically screeching now. How could you not tell me this? I didn't think it was important, Dad said weakly. It never seemed relevant. Not relevant? Sandra's face was turning an interesting shade of red. Not relevant that your teenage daughter owns our house? She hung up before Dad could respond, nearly throwing her phone onto the table. The kitchen was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. James and Melissa were staring at me like they'd never seen me before. Sandra took several deep breaths, visibly trying to compose herself. When she finally spoke, her voice was artificially bright, though I could hear it trembling slightly. Well, she said, forcing a laugh that sounded more like a hiccup. This has all been a big misunderstanding. Of course, you don't need to pay rent, Ruby. Let's just forget this whole conversation happened, shall we? I'd lost my appetite completely. Without a word, I stood up and left the kitchen, heading for the stairs. As I climbed to the 2nd floor,